Back on midday with our weekly look back at what was making headlines 10, 20, 30, even 40 years ago. A major project goes from full throttle to full stop. The final flight of the Concorde and some notable passings mark our weekly walk back through time. Dave McKinley remembers when those stories and more were all news to you.
10 years ago this week.
In terms of anything stopping this now, there's nothing standing in the way to get this thing built.
Site work began on the $400 million Canadian Motor Speedway with grandstand seating for 65,000 just across the Peace Bridge at Fort Erie. But if you're wondering, gee, hadn't we ought to go sometime, you can't. Despite the promises, the project never even got out of the pits. The land today has returned to its fallow form of a decade ago. The Sabres traded Thomas Vanek, and musician Lou Reed of Take a Walk on the Wild Side fame went to the other side at the age of 71 this week in 2013. 20 years ago this week, the TSA began just its second year of operation, and in just its first,
it has confiscated more than 8 million banned items since taking over checkpoints.
Yeah, I feel safer.
Speaking of flying, though, that very same week,
for travelers who lived the dream, it is an end to an era.
when the Concorde took to the skies for the final time, the needle-nosed supersonic passenger plane, which flew at twice the speed of sound, headed for retirement following 3 decades of fast and fancy flights.
Many are still hoping the sleek and speedy legend will one day return to the skies.
2 decades later, it has not. It was also the week that we lost Rod Roddy, the former Buffalo DJ who went on to become the longest-serving announcer in the history of The Price is Right. Known for his flamboyant threads and trademark phrase, "Come on down," which was actually engraved on his tombstone following his death at the age of 66 this week in 2003. 30 years ago this week, a flamboyant American businesswoman who with her husband built a slew of luxury hotels but whose tyrannical behavior earned her the nickname the Queen of Mean was released from prison. This week's News to You pop quiz, do you remember who this is, who was famous for saying, "We don't pay taxes, only the little people pay taxes," and who was sprung after serving 19 months for tax evasion this week in 1993. Remember, this was back when
Buffalo's Columbus Hospital is scheduled to become the first hospital in the country to house a needle exchange program.
And when
Well, today the Thruway unveiled its new Easy Pass system at the Grand Island Bridge. The Thruway eventually expects to be using the system all around the state.
Yeah, it only took them 25 years. Back then, when the circus came to town, they held an animal parade with elephants, often ridden by mayors and news anchors, after which the pachyderms would pig out by feasting on fast food. Then came word from Hollywood.
Life can never be too long.
Isn't that the truth? However,
One's time is all one's time, even to the end.
and so it was for legendary actor Vincent Price, who died at the age of 82 this week in 1993. 40 years ago this week, 241 U.S. servicemen were killed when a suicide bomber drove a truck with 2,000 pounds of explosives into the Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. It was the largest loss of life in a single day for the Marine Corps since the Battle of Iwo Jima back in World War II. Among those killed was Marine Lance Corporal Robert Olson of Lawtons. That same week, U.S. forces invaded the island nation of Grenada. Resistance was crushed in a matter of days, but not before 19 servicemen died, including U.S. Army Ranger Mark Rademacher of Aurora. This week in 1983, when it was all news to you.
All right, so here is the answer to this week's News to You pop quiz. The flamboyant American businesswoman whose reputed tyrannical behavior earned her the nickname the Queen of Mean and who was released from prison 30 years ago this week was, Patrick, you got it right.
Leona.
Yep, Leona Helmsley. She more or less retreated from public life after serving time for tax evasion and then quietly donated millions to charitable causes until her death in 2007. So I guess she reversed course a little bit.
I didn't know Rod Roddy was from here.
I didn't know he was only 66.
I know, that was the other thing. I mean, he looked really young, but my gosh, that was such an iconic voice. And yes, his sport coats were just always...
They would always get away to show him at least once or twice during the show so you could see what his outfit was. And that was always a stay home from school sick viewing or vacation.
11 a.m., right. I didn't know that he had this local connection.
Yeah, I didn't either.